now we can go ahead and get started. So for those of you who are just joining us, I want to make sure that I introduce Ed. So we've got PPC Ed from Seller Labs here, and he's going to be sharing a lot of the what and the things that have gone into sponsored products and all of those pieces. I'm going to be going through some of the things on how we've been able to use sponsored products with wholesale and with retail arbitrage. A lot of times people are thinking, oh, this is just a PL thing. You know, if I'm private label, that's the only reason that I'm going to need sponsored products. But I'm sure that it's funny is that we use sponsored products more now than I think we ever thought we would. And especially as we have started working more and more brands, we're doing it even more. But we still do a lot of it just on some of our regular things. And I think that sometimes it's kind of like listing enhancement. Sometimes people think, oh well, it's only because we're gonna it's only I don't want to fix the listing because then it's going to help everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all those little things that make it so manufacturers really want to work with you for the long haul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, hands down. I mean, sponsored product ads themselves have really blown up a lot over the past year even. And they've really branched out, and whether you're, PL, wholesale or retail arbitrage, there's still so many great benefits from it. And you really want to jump on all the options that you have to drive as much traffic as possible to your listing, and really get a lot of that traffic and get it to convert as well. Even if you just, you don't have that buy box for the whole time, it's just a little small window and you have a sponsored product ad running, you can push all this extra traffic that you wouldn't normally get from just organic traffic coming through Amazon. So we're going to talk about this more, but yeah, sponsored product ads, not just for private label. And I'm really excited to be talking about this because a lot of people that are, looking into the wholesale market and the retail arbitrage market, they don't even think about sponsored product ads. And this is something that you can really use to get a lot more out of your listing that you're sharing maybe, but you're going to get a lot more sales. And I think it's something that's really untapped so far.
Well, and it's funny how people only think about doing sponsored products for retail arbitrage only from February 10th to February 15th. But it's a way to move more. Well, we've used it as a couple ways. So so when we first started using sponsored products, we actually started with retail arbitrage. We had a really great honey hole that oh my gosh, we loved it. We had these 3 honey holes that we would hit on our way to California. So I'd drive with my kids down to LA. We'd spend a day in Disneyland. We'd come back with a trailer full of stuff usually, and so we had these honey holes, and a lot of their lines were awesome. They had some products that were selling so much it was ridiculous. And then it was weird because there'd be other ones that I think they started off on the wrong foot, because they had bad photos, somebody rushed through creating the listing and they didn't really do it right, or they didn't know. We noticed a lot of verbiage that was kind of like eBay, and so people who are kind of optimizing for eBay on Amazon, and so those ones, they were horrible. And so we'd have this one item that was ranked 33,000 in toys, and when this other one is ranked 3 million in toys, and we're like, all right, so we got, I would love to be able to sell more of this. And when I was looking at them, I was like, I'm a buyer for this. I know these should be selling. I don't know what's wrong. And so it wasn't until we started using sponsored products, started fixing the listings, that we started to really realize, hey, we can take, it's that's we can take a sad song and make it better, so we can take a sad listing. And what we found is, we thought as soon as we fixed it, all of the other people who were shopping at that same honey hole, because there were 4 other sellers that were selling at this store. Or they were buying at the store. And so I figured as soon as we fixed these listings, they would all just jump on them. And I was surprised. Often it took 6 to 12 months before they noticed, because and they would be in that that it would be in that buying criteria in that top 5%, but they didn't notice it because they had already dismissed this as not a good seller.
Yes.
And so we found that in wholesale too, that people will have a bad experience right after ASD, the price will plummet, or the listing is really bad, they can't move items, and so then they leave and they don't come back. And when they walk ASD's floor again next year, there very few sellers have something where they're following up to see if something was good later. And so oftentimes, we would take these really bad listings, this trash, and we would turn it into this treasure that it was kind of like on our own little hidden island that was all ours. And the other thing is it allowed us to, on the items that were already selling well, since now we specifically look for things that don't have a lot of other sellers. So if you're trying to sell Lego, sponsored products is going to be really difficult because
Yes.
you don't have enough buy box, right?
Yeah.
But we started specifically looking for items. We're like, okay, what can we find that's not going to have a lot of sellers or maybe have no FBA offers? And where that's really, it looks like it's doing bad, but we know because of like, search for words and search volume in merchant words or something else, we know that it should be selling well, right? And so we started to specifically look for those. And what happened is a lot of manufacturers, that we had, they were saying, you're selling so much more than our other sellers. So we're just going to cut them off. And we want to keep selling with you because you seem like you really know what you're doing. And we had retail arbitrage because we were buying in so many quantities, so many of these stores, like a couple of them were like, man, I'm sure we're glad you came in because I wasn't sure how, they were going to cut our hours this week because we have to sell so much today, or they were going to cut our hours. So they became, they would text me. I would text them and say, hey, I'm coming down. And they'll say, okay, we'll have stuff. How much do you have to spend? And they kind of knew what I wanted. And so I could just send them a list and they would pull it all down. Because I'm buying in bigger volumes, it was easier for me to make the relationships, right?
Yeah.
And since there were stores that not every other Amazon seller was on, they weren't, it's not like they were getting bombarded. I was like a novelty, and they were like, ooh, we've got a secret, So it really, really helped. So it gave us more access to more exclusives. And then, it really opened us up to thinking about brands that I think that I normally just would have thrown in the trash. Items that, had huge margins, where we were, 300% ROI from wholesale, where you're moving like 100 units a week. That is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
And, they're unicorns. I mean, that's not what you're going to find all the time, but it definitely can make a big difference. And so, the reason I think sponsored products is even more important than it used to be is because as Amazon has been trying to kind of rein in that wild, wild west.
Yes.
This is the way to really, so I think I told you, it's like, so I really look at sponsored ads as like jumper cables. So you get a car, if you imagine if you got a car and the battery was dead, you use the jumper cables, you bring it to life, right? Now the car still has to run. It still has to be a good vehicle in order for that to work. But once you get it started, then it's so much easier, right? You just have to keep it going. And you got to rev the gas a little bit in the beginning, and that's with your sponsored products. And the way that kind of that, how when you have to kind of push the gas a little bit when your car dies,
give it some gas and
kind of get it moving. I kind of feel that like right now promotions and clippable coupons are that little gas pedal, just giving it, making sure that it runs long enough that it keeps everything moving. And then once you get it going, then it can really run smoothly. So if you can get good at sponsored products, not only is it going to make you more valuable to both your retail and your wholesale stores, and you might think that that's not possible for retail. If you're looking at really small lines that everybody else has forgotten, trust me, they are very excited to be selling on Amazon, to have their items sold on Amazon. It's a huge thing. Yes. You can take a small restaurant or an out-of-the-way company or a little boutique that that $4,000 in sales a month means that they can breathe. So you find the right partner, then you step a little outside of what everybody else is doing, a whole new world is going to be completely opened up for you. And I'm sure you've seen that with some of the clients that you're working to, right?
Oh, yes. It is ridiculous. I mean, like, kind of going back to, like, Amazon's trying to rein in the Wild Wild West that was Amazon. And they're changing some things. They're doing some changes with the reviews, like what happened, a while ago. We all know about that. And that really changed a lot of the ways that people would really get their items off the ground and made it harder. But it also kind of weeded out those products that didn't really deserve to be there in the first place. And that's one thing I love about sponsored products is you can use this to drive that traffic, and then if it converts, then you're successful. So as long as you build up your listing, like you're saying, and get the sponsored product ads, it goes hand in hand. And it really works out, like just like what you're saying. We have a client who came to us very, very small time, just trying some things out. And we were able to really blow up their business, and they are doing so much better now. Their sponsored product sales are leading into more organic sales. The rankings going up. They're showing up organically for all these searches, and it is so incredible to see, but also be able to like be there to help out with that and give that advice and just show how sponsored product ads can really lead you to get that placement that you want for your product. And then over time, you can kind of dial back the sponsored products if you need to, because you're showing up so much better organically for these keywords and these terms that you never even thought of before. And it's really a great way to also research. With certain campaigns, we'll talk about like the auto-targeting campaigns we'll go into in another webinar. It's actually a good way to kind of find out what Amazon thinks your product is. Like, you can put in as many keywords and things like that and try to get these rankings going, but you can use an auto-targeting campaign to say, oh, cool, Amazon is driving traffic for this certain type of term. And it gives you that justification, like, cool, I'm doing something right. Or, wait a minute, Amazon thinks that this apple slicer is a garlic press. So I'm not sure what's going on, so you can really kind of
and that's bringing the wrong customers, and that's why it's not selling, right? So when you fix the relevancy, it fixes the sales problem. If you've got a good product that's in demand, that's not oversaturated, right? You have to have all those pieces: good product, in demand, not oversaturated, right? Then sponsored ads will really give you that momentum to really get it started, get it moving. If you're a PL person, or you're watching this and you have your own company where you've developed your own line, and I think that sponsored ads plus coupons or promotions are really like the way to launch products at this point in time. Now, Amazon loves to change it as soon as we get comfortable, but at this point in time, I really think that is, and sponsored ads will help your organic ranking, because Amazon search engine, you have to think it's like the most capitalistic search engine in the world. So if diamonds are a girl's best friend, sales are Amazon's best friend. So that, any conversion that you get, it's like, you get a little bit more attractive to Amazon, and so the more sales you can get, the more it's going to, it becomes this kind of, it feeds into itself and kind of becomes a snowball.
It does, yes. I mean, the biggest thing is like, Amazon is all about the sales, because if they see a product selling, they're like, okay, we'll kind of give you some better placement there. Like the same thing with the sponsored product ads, the more like an actual product is converting, they're going to drive more traffic to it, because they're like, well, hey, we're helping you out. We're helping you get these sales, but also you're helping us out. We're getting this traffic on Amazon, If it's FBA, it really helps them out, of course, all of that. So it really is like, it's a good way to make sure that you are enticing Amazon to really help you organically, but also drive more traffic to your ads. So I can talk about sponsored product ads all day. I love it. It's really intriguing too, because it will drive so much extra traffic for you.
And so, with that, I think we should go ahead and get right into the meat. I wanted to make sure that people really, before we started, I wanted to make sure that everybody had a understanding of why would somebody who teaches primarily wholesale and retail arbitrage be super excited about sponsored products. It is because I don't think that we would still be in business if we hadn't started to do that. Because I think that we would have been stuck competing against everything, the same things that everybody else is selling. We would have had to be in really oversaturated markets. We've had to deal with a lot of price taking that we haven't seen a lot of that, because we have been able to kind of find these weird, out of the way kind of companies and be able to make them successful. So I'll let you kind of go ahead and get started on like so what are some of the things that we're going to cover tonight, and kind of go from there.
Awesome, cool. So tonight, guys, we're going to be talking about sponsored product ads. If you couldn't already tell, that is going to be the topic. And we're going to talk about just like, what exactly are sponsored product ads, why you should use them. We've kind of already touched on that. We'll also show some examples of sponsored product ads. You see them more than you even know. Even when I first started sponsored product advertising, I knew where some of them were, but they're kind of tricky. They just kind of show up, and they're like kind of subliminal. They kind of get you to think about other products. And we're going to talk about the two different types, the main types that you'll be using, which is the auto and manual targeting campaigns. And then also we're going to touch on how you can really get the most out of your sponsored product ads. I have a method that I use that I will go into more depth over time. We'll just touch on some of those main steps that I use to get the most out of your sponsored product ads. All right, so to begin with, Ron, we just talked about this. What are sponsored product ads, and why do I need to advertise? So really, sponsored product advertisements are the best way to get traffic to your listing, to your products that you're offering on Amazon, without having to just sit there and wait. With this, you have the ability to target certain keywords, or actually pay a little bit on keyword bids to actually get some traffic driven to your listing. And you really need to do this because it's going to give you that extra step like we were just talking about. We kind of already covered most of this. You need this because you can't just launch a product and just sit there and hope that it sells. If it worked like that, that'd be way too easy. So like you have to be able to aim, a certain type of keywords that you want to rank for. You have to be kind of able to target those and go after them so you can drive that traffic to your listing for the people that are looking for your product. And a good question is, where are sponsored product ads? And we actually have some examples. I actually took these for the infamous apple slicer. So on this one, we have a couple of different type right here. The top one that we see from this provider shows it's a headline search ad. This is one that's a more advanced method to advertise. We won't actually be covering this that much. This is more for people that do have a private label. You have to have an actual brand registry. But beneath that, these top 4 results right here, these are all sponsored product advertisements. You'll notice this is the first page. This is page 1 out of 864 results for Apple Slicer, and the top results are sponsored product ads. This is why it's so important. If you're running successful sponsored product advertisements, you can make sure that you're showing up on the search result page at the top and also so many other places. So none of these, well, actually, some of these probably may rank organically pretty well, but one of these may not rank organically at all. They may just be bidding enough and aiming at like their target at the right keywords to get this position on this front page. And as we go to the next one, this is actually some other placement that you can get as well. This is a little different. You've seen this too. Whenever you're shopping on Amazon, you're looking at a listing of a product, you're like, that's pretty nice. Let me scroll down and I can see sponsored products related to this item. This is a little different. This is actually achieved, I believe, through an auto-targeting campaign. This is actually Amazon kind of showing some other options that's relating to a product that's similar to yours. So this is another area where you can get that type of targeted advertisement to advertise your product on someone else's listing technically. And then the final one is one of my favorites. This is actually after you've already added an item to a cart. They say, well, wait a minute, here's some other sponsored product items related to this product. And I like it too because on all these little areas, they have a little button that says, what's this? So you can actually know what a sponsored product ad is. And so this is really cool because it shows you that even if they're not looking at your particular listing, you can still have your ad placed in front of a potential buyer. And this really gives you a better opportunity to get some of that traffic on Amazon. And it allows you to actually advertise to a wider range of people as opposed to just having it on there and hoping that you get some sales over time, having some friends buy it, having some reviews over time. This helps you amp that up to get you that extra traffic that you need to get your actual listing and your sales off the ground.
So like if you have a brand that's saying, I know that people want to buy a product, I just have to get it in front of people. If it's a product that is a good product that's in demand, not oversaturated, this allows you to jump the line, right? Mm-hmm. And to be able to put your product right up front. Now the key, if anybody who tells you that you want to get as many views as you can on sponsored products doesn't know what they're doing. Yeah. Because we don't remember we talked about sales being like the thing that makes Amazon super excited. So if you have a bunch of traffic that doesn't convert, that's not going to help you. And it means you're bringing in unqualified buyers. Mm-hmm. So it would be kind of like if I had advertised the webinar the way that I did, right, and then I had a whole presentation on reports. Everybody would have jumped back off, right? Because, exactly. You're not bringing the right people in. You got to make sure that the advertisement is going to lead to qualified purchases.
Exactly. And that is huge, guys. Over time, you will have to actually do some adjustments on your campaigns to make sure you are targeting the type of buyer that you want to have on your listing. You don't want to have people, like if you're selling a bicycle and you're trying to target the keyword, let's say, sedan. Let's just say you're advertising. That doesn't make any sense because people that are searching for sedans, they don't want a bicycle. There may be one person who's like, you know what? I should go with a bicycle instead. But that's very, very rare. So you have to be able to target exactly what type of clientele you want coming through to your listing. So there are 2 primary types of campaigns. The first one isn't going to be as direct and controlled. It is going to be an auto-targeted campaign. And an auto-targeted campaign is pretty much allowing Amazon to drive traffic to the listing or the product that you're offering themselves. What they do is you just actually set a daily budget and a default bid. And this is how much you're willing to bid on each click, how much you want to spend on each click, and how much you want to spend over a 24-hour period. And they say, okay, cool. Thank you for that information. Now we're going to drive traffic to you. We're going to allow users to search things, and we're going to drive those searches to your listing. based on the information that we have from your listing. Like they're going to look for terms in your title, your back end, your description, things like that, and your bullet points. They're going to use that information to kind of get an idea about what your product is. And then they're going to use an auto-targeted campaign to drive that traffic to it. So this is something that you usually, when you're first starting, it's a good way to discover what type of terms are being used to drive that traffic. And then you can really take this information and kind of take it out of the auto-targeting and put it into a manual targeting campaign. And the manual targeting campaign is going to be more targeted. It's a more targeted approach to where, like, you know what keywords are doing the best. You know what people are searching that's leading to those conversions, not just those clicks. And then you can actually up the bids on those keywords. You can focus more spend on those. So that way you're getting better results because you know, okay, cool. When somebody searches four-door sedan, they're coming to my listing and they're buying my product. That'd be something that you do in a manual targeted campaign so you can have more control over how much you want to get out of it.
And we always are using both. So we use manual and automatic campaigns together. So we start the automatic campaign, and Ed might have his, PPC might have his own method, right? We start with our automatic campaign. We let it, so basically we want to make sure that what we think Amazon is going to look at and identify our product. What words do they think are relevant, and what words Amazon thinks are relevant are the same. And we've had where we're like, how does it think that we're relevant for that? So it allows us to make changes to the listing, make sure we're because you can't. It's not like Facebook where you can just say run an ad to this group. Right. You have to, Amazon will not let you run an ad unless it thinks that it is relevant. So we're gonna verify that what we think we're going to be able to advertise for, we're going to be able to advertise for. And then sometimes there's surprises. So if you ever heard George Lawrence talk about the anklets, and apparently there's like swingers involved. So if there might be keywords that you don't anticipate that could really drive a lot of sales. So it's going to help identify some of those. Now, for the most part, it's only going to pull what's already existing in your listing unless that listing has been around for a long time. So you can become relevant for words because of traffic, people who click here and then click there. Kind of tricky. But if your listing is brand new, it's basically going to be the words that you put in for your listing, right? But the manual campaign allows for that surgical strike. So the automatic campaign is the drone, and the manual targeting is, like the sonar, which gets the missile like in the window kind of thing.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I say like auto is like a fishing net, and I mean manual is like a harpoon. I guess it's just like very, very surgical, very specific, and I love the method. That's what I do too. Start off really, really broad, like an auto targeting, and then you can kind of just zoom in. You always want to go more and more exact over time, go to the manual.
And we leave our automatic campaign on, just we lower the bid down to 5 cents. People think like it's just like a starter kit, that you got to leave it on because it does feed you information. So you got to leave it there.
Yeah, and it's like constantly researching new terms too. Like even if you have a very, very low bid, you're not spending much on it. It's just constantly showing you new terms that are driving that traffic, and it's just constantly helping out your listing too. It's getting you sales for very, very cheap sometimes. It's wonderful. So this is a great question. How do you get the most out of your campaigns? And I have an answer, and it's S.P.A.M. That's right. I use S.P.A.M. So S.P.A.M. is not actually the delicious mystery meat that everybody loves, except for myself. Not a big fan of it, honestly. S.P.A.M. is actually an acronym that's really easy to follow. This is actually just a method that I've used with sponsored product ads, and it really just stands for system, process, and metrics. The system, process, and metrics, S.P.A.M. So what this is it's giving you this method to have a system in place and have a process that you can use to really drill into your campaigns, get the most out of it, and to know exactly what metrics to look for. Because, I mean, sponsored product ads can really be hard. They can be really tough. There's a lot going on with them. But by following S.P.A.M, you can really get the most out of your sponsored product ads. And like I said, they can be really hard. If we go to the next one, you can kind of see there's lots of data that's involved. There's a lot of new terminology, and a lot of people try and give up. And I'll be honest, I've had so many people come to me, and they just get so frustrated because they'll see thousands of words and have no idea what they mean. There's acronyms. There's just really, really hard things to follow through. There's all these new terms like what is ACOS, and they just trying to give up. But if you just follow through with S.P.A.M and you know what to look for, you know how to achieve the goals, if you know what your goals are to begin with, it's not hard. You just have to follow your system, the process, and know what metrics to look for. And this will make the process so much easier. I use this every day of my life. And it's really just 5 simple steps that I go after. The first one is just determining your target ACoS. We'll touch on these in more depth in a future webinar. But determine your target ACoS. This is based on your business goals, how much you want to spend on advertising in order to get those sales back. You want to structure your campaigns for success. That means not just throwing thousands of keywords and hoping that they work. You want to build your campaigns early and have them able to be scaled upwards as time goes on so you're continually getting successful results. And then third is to use profitable keywords and user search terms. Focusing that spend that you have on those keywords and those search terms that are converting well for you. It's just that easy. Spend money where it's working out for you. And you optimize those bids to drive traffic. And this is really awesome because you can monitor those bids over time and up them and lower them if you need to, but you're always trying to get that traffic back to your campaign and your listing. And finally is checking your campaigns once or twice a week. Do not overcheck your campaigns. So that's it. It seems like I lost you, Robin. I can't hear you.
Oh, I see like private label people, sometimes they get so obsessed with like, well, I made a change, they forget that there's a lag in the reporting, so you're not going to see the results for a little bit. So you have to remember that. Let's just, I want to break down, because some people, this is kind of the air that we breathe, right? But for ACoS is average cost of sale, right? And so that would be like if you had $100 and you spent $10 on ads, then you'd have a 10% ACoS. Now people say, well, what's a good ACoS? And there is no magic number. So if your margin is like this, then you can have a really big ACoS and still make money. If you're doing a grocery item that's $8, you're going to have a really small ACoS because there's only so much room. So you're staying out of your margin. I'm willing to spend this amount, this part right here. I'm willing to take out and make it a little bit smaller because I know that I can sell this many more units by having that spend. So we're saying we're going to lower our profit a little bit because we're going to increase the volume, right? And then the structure of campaigns, that I think that is the biggest thing that I think that, people understand automatic and manual, but I've gone into companies, PPCs, because we're doing a lot of these audits, and companies that are doing thousands and thousands and thousands a month, and their campaigns are blue, scarf, hat.
Oh man, it's
like, no, that's not going to work because it becomes, so the problem with that is that so because you might look at your ACoS on your hats and it might say 10%, but there might be some hats that you're paying 100% for and some hats that you're paying 3% for. And so it gives you a good average, but you're actually leaking all of this massive amounts of money. So that campaign structure is the way that you stop the hemorrhaging. Really, if you've been trying to run sponsor ads before and you felt like it was just pouring money into a black hole, it came down to your campaign and the optimization of pulling those words that aren't performing out. Because I think sometimes we think it's just about putting the words in. But I think that, I was looking at Nate's process and, oh my gosh, talk about make me want, because, so my husband does these all manually. And so you might say, well, why am I doing a thing with Seller Labs? Because he was explaining the process to me and we had to start over like 8 times. So I was like, this is so boring. Because it's like, all right, look at the ones that are greater than this and less than that and copy those out of the spreadsheet, move them over here. It's like, my eyes are going to start bleeding. I can't do this. So I really think that unless you have a super nerd husband or spouse or sister, that you do need software to do this, because it is you can do it on your own, and if you only have a couple SKUs, it might be manageable. But especially for wholesale, you have to make it more doable. And if you're not super analytic, then sponsored products can become overwhelming really quickly if you don't give yourself the tools that you need.
Yeah, and especially like the tool that we offer, guys, is actually called Ignite, and it is a wonderful tool that I use myself. Like, I can be just like Nate. I can actually spend hours and get really, really nerdy about it, drill into the keywords, look at all the search terms that are relating back to that, which ones have, this many clicks, only this many conversions, and the conversion rate. I can do all that, but it saves so much time when you have a tool like a process like this to really use in combination, because it can take, like, people went from like having, 8 hours of their day blocked off for sponsored product ads to just having a tool that will actually offer suggestions for you over time that will tell you these changes that may be made to help you achieve that targeted cost that you're going after. So it does make the process a lot easier. And if you do still want to be really, really granular, like go into it, you have that option still in Ignite. That is still an option that you can do. The tool is really great because it allows you to do it both ways. And that's what I love about it, because sometimes I do want to drill into it and see why this one specific search term is just doing better than the other one. Or I want to compare it against another product that may be using the same search term. But the tool is wonderful because it will let you set goals and it will start offering those suggestions so you can start achieving those goals. It's really awesome.
And so if you're looking at like how would this fit into your retail arbitrage and your wholesale, what you would do is you would specifically look for items that have higher margins but don't meet other people's sales rank and number of, they don't meet, like, so they have very few sellers. So we're talking, I usually try to stay like under 4 or 5 sellers. Ideally, I would like to be under 2 sellers. And there actually are a ton of companies that if they have bad rank, there's no sellers on them. So you're going to find something that has bad rank for a reason. So it smells for a reason. It was overpriced. It had really bad listing. Remember, many of you have heard about the cat poop in the picture. We had this listing and it wasn't selling. And I looked at it and somebody had put a picture and it was a stuffed animal on a chair, on a dining room chair. And through the arm of the chair, you could see the cat poop.
Oh.
And I was like, wow, that could be hurting conversions.
Oh, man. That is ridiculous.
It's like, you get to the title and somebody's all messed up the title, or, so it's got bad titles, it's got bad images, it's been overpriced, or it's been out of stock, or it just simply hasn't been available via Prime. Those are the things that we look for. Those are the criteria. And we're looking for things that have a higher margin. Now, if you are private labeling or you're manufacturing your own goods, then what you're going to be doing is those ads are going to be kind of replacing the spend that you might spend on a sales rep force or something else. So just like you would, if you were trying to get in boutique stores and things like that, you would hire an independent sales rep. On Amazon, your independent sales rep is really your sponsored products. And Ignite will help you be able to do that and manage it yourself if you're not really at the point where you're ready to bring on a PPC manager and that's something you hate doing. So
so going back to it, guys, it's S.P.A.M. Like this I'm not trying to be corny, but this really is a good way to remember it. You have to have a system process and know what metrics to look for when you're really diving into the sponsored product ads, so that way you can know exactly what's going wrong, what's working, and they can actually capitalize on those keywords and those terms that are converting well for you.
And Fanny asked, she said, if an existing listing has bad pictures, titles, bullets, and descriptions, do we change all that? And our answer, so we always optimize the listing first before running sponsored products, because if you have a listing that's not converting, there's no point driving more traffic to it. So you guys have heard me talk about the sales and traffic, detailed sales and traffic report. That will tell you how many people are coming and how many people are buying. So you'll be able to see, is it a traffic problem or is it a conversion problem? I recommend that you find something that you do make the changes on. Now somebody's going to say, well, that's not really worth it if it's just retail arbitrage. It's not, why would it be worth me making those changes? A lot of times, you're going to be able to keep it for a long time because people haven't looked at it. But here's the other thing. We built our skill set on retail arbitrage. So when we moved into wholesale, we killed it. So you can be really selfish and say, well, I don't want to enhance the listing because it's going to help everybody and I want to only help me. But I'm telling you, by doing making the changes to your listings, and the other thing is it gives you kind of this ace in authority. I noticed that we are able to make changes a lot easier than some of our manufacturers even are, because we know the system, but also our account is trusted.
Yeah.
So those are all things, and that would be part of that system. Part of our system before we get into sponsored products is going through that audit of checking the listings.
Yeah, I mean, something like we would put that as like you wouldn't put a rocket on the back of a jalopy. Like it's not going to work out, because you don't want to drive traffic to something that's not doing well to begin with, because it's going to just drive more traffic that's not going to convert. I've had many clients, many people coming through that are, getting into sponsor product ads, and they're like, I'm spending so much money on all these clicks. I'm getting the clicks, are just not converting. And I'm like, well, let's take a look at your listing. It is just terrible. It's just like, very, very minimal title. It doesn't have anything to do with the product. The images, it has like one image is very, very terrible. And it's just like the description doesn't address anything about the product. So you want to make sure that you have a built out listing and you have it set up for success before you drive that extra traffic to it. Like, be confident in it before you get people's eyes on it. It's just as simple as that. And that's something that you keep in mind regardless, no matter what you're selling, whether it's retail arbitrage, wholesale, anything like that, or even just like if you have a brand too, it's the same way. Build it up before you drive that traffic.
And the question that always happens is, I'm not good at writing. I don't know how to fix the descriptions because I'm not a good writer. We outsource that. So there's a company that we use called Writers Access. It used to be you could just do by the job. Now you have to pay like a subscription per month. But if you know you're going to be fixing a lot of listings, then that is an option still. I just put Writers Access in the chat so that you have it. But there's always ways to create systems and processes where you don't have to be the one that does this, but you can make sure that it can get done. So that allows you to find more great opportunities and to now use these skills. And let's say your account gets decimated. Now you still have another option where you can come back and offer the service to Amazon sellers that haven't taken the time to learn this.
Yeah. And this is just it, guys. S.P.A.M plus Ignite equals success. Now, I know we talked about Ignite. I will actually be doing more of like a demo with Ignite in some future webinars that Ruffin's actually going to have, so you can actually see it in action. Ignite is a tool that we were talking about that Seller Labs offers that really helps you get the most out of your sponsor product ads by making it easy to know what's working, what's not working, and it will also make intelligent suggestions aimed to help you achieve that target ACoS that you have specified at a campaign level.
So, when you're looking at, we're looking for, should you be running sponsored ads? You should be able to have the item that's replenishable, whether it's private label. I wouldn't recommend, I don't think that running sponsored products to get rid of excess inventory is a good use of your time. And sponsored products take a while to get up and optimized. And so, people, I see, especially in the last week, people have been saying, well, run sponsored ads on your products to get rid of your excess inventory. First of all, we really should be looking at our inventory on a regular basis so we don't have all of that excess inventory. So if you had looked at that inventory 4 months ago and started running sponsored ads on it then, even if you had bought too deep, then not only would you have you would have avoided making additional bad purchases, but you also would have been able to move that product faster, which means you would have paid less in fees.
Yes.
So, by starting to look at your inventory and looking at sponsored ads, it kind of made us start to really look at those reports too, because now it's kind of like when you hire somebody to pack, all of a sudden you're like, whoa, I want to make sure that that is a good system, right? Because now I'm paying for it to happen. So it does make you more cognizant. Shauna asked, so brand new product and listing so that people won't even know what to search for. At what point do you start doing sponsored products? After X number of sales or reviews? I'll let you answer that, and then I'll say what we do if it's different. But I think they'll probably be pretty close.
Yeah, that sounds good. So honestly, if you have a brand new listing, like, a lot of times it is hard to get that traffic initially. So as long as the listing is built out and you have it, up to your standards, you have, the terms in the back end, the characters in the back end, you have also pictures, you have the title, you have the description, you have the bullet points, you have it all built out. You can even just start with an auto-targeting campaign. If you think that people aren't sure what they're going to be searching for, allow Amazon to help you out with that. Just by running an auto-targeted campaign to begin with, it will kind of tell you what people are searching to get to your listing, and will also kind of show you what Amazon thinks your product is. And this is really awesome because if you've set everything up and you've built out a listing that you think is awesome and it's incredible and it's included all the keywords that you think are relevant, and then you look in your auto-targeted campaign and those are the same terms that are driving the most traffic to your listing, then you're like, oh, sweet, it worked out. I did everything correct. On the other hand, if it didn't work out and you're seeing all different types of terms that have nothing to do with your product, you may want to revisit your listing to kind of correct those things.
And so we do something very similar. So we create the listing. Now, I would say that you might have skipped a step earlier on in your process. And it might be too late to fix it for this particular product, but for your next product, when we're looking at product identification, now granted, we're looking at the wholesale level, but with the brands that we're working, a lot of times we are working on launching new products to the market with existing brands, right? So when we're looking at products to sell on Amazon, what we want is them to not just be pretty, or not just to be something that we're interested in. We want them to be search term pretty. So search term pretty, I had this lady that I met at a conference. It was a non-Amazon conference, and she heard I was the Amazon chick, and she was super excited, right? And so she came over with this belt. It was like a nylon, like it was like a seat belt kind of thing. Yeah. And I was like, oh, okay. She's like, I really want to get it on Amazon. It's going to be the next big thing. And she was really excited about it. What it was a nylon seat belt that you put around the seat on your car so your purse wouldn't fall over.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, that's a great idea. I can definitely see. I was like, my purse is not big enough to tip over because, but I can definitely, I know a lot of people would use this. The problem with selling it on Amazon is, what would people search for?
Exactly. Yeah.
It's
you have
a
to have
great
an
product.
idea. Yeah.
But there would be a lot of consumers. So she would have to do a lot of education off Amazon to get people to be looking for her brand on Amazon. So her brand was a little bit too early. Now, if she gets on CNBC and a bunch of YouTube people pick her up, and people are now searching on Amazon for a seatbelt purse or purse seatbelts, then now I can put that listing on. So, and you might have already done this, Shauna. So when people don't know what to search for, you need to make sure that the product is unique enough that people are going to be searching for those things, and you're looking for search term volume and how competitive that search term volume is. So when we brought we brought these tampon flasks to the market, and so they were little 1 ounce shot things, and they shoved them in a tampon wrapper. And so you could sneak alcohol into, and it was like smuggle my booze. It was like the name of it, right? And so even though there was no search volume for smuggle my booze, and there was no search volume for tampon flask, because you wouldn't expect there to be, right? There were other listings that people were, it was like, shampoos and other things, right? So, hidden flask, there was a lot of search term for that. So it was unique enough that it was search term pretty, even though there wasn't enough volume for existing for the brand. There was search term pretty for the functionality that it did. So so I would just say, make sure you're thinking about keywords before you're investing in products, whether it's wholesale, private label, RA. We want to think about what's going to drive that traffic. And again, you might already be doing this, the person that asked, but then once you have the listing created, then I would start once the listing is created and optimized, we do start with an automatic campaign at a set bid for about 7 days. We check to make sure that the keywords that we think are going to produce sales are actually producing sales. If we need to readjust our strategy, we do. And then we start the automatic campaign, and we lower the bid on our automatic campaign to a very low amount per day, so that it still kind of runs in the background, but then we start to key up our manual campaigns, and we see how they're performing, and then we remove the words that aren't performing and accelerate the words that are. So that's kind of the whole process in a nutshell. So let me know if that didn't answer your questions, but we don't wait for like 10 sales or 3 reviews. Because really, that's what the sponsored products are going to do. They should be jump starting those sales. So think about like jumper cables.
Yeah, exactly.
So what is a back end search term? And when running manual campaigns, do we put on the Amazon ad keywords? All right, so let's start. While I decipher that, Ed, because I think it's probably just my eyes got a little blurry or something. Why don't you explain what a back-end search term is, and then I'm going to kind of take another look at this question because I think I'm missing something.
Right, yeah. So a back-end search term, so as everybody knows, when you're building out a listing, or like when you're editing a listing that you may be on, you have some areas where you want to put in the correct information. You have the title. You want to have a descriptive title. You want to have great images that are actually going to be really attractive that will lead to more conversions. You want to have a description that actually tells you more about the product, and then also bullet points as well. That's all in the front facing. That's all everything that the normal consumer that's coming to that listing on Amazon can see. A back-end search term is actually something that only the seller can see. This is actually when you go to edit a listing. There's an option in the back that actually allows you to put in search terms that you want to start driving traffic. They want to use to drive traffic to your actual listing. And this is limited now to 250 bits. It's not characters. It is actually like a space is kind of as a character, like some actual letters and other languages. They have different, like they count as two instead of one. And you can look it up, but like it's limited to 250 bits, or 250 characters in theory. This is actually something that you put in that the actual shopper cannot see. But this helps Amazon know what your product is, and it can allow you to give you that extra degree to tell Amazon what your product is and to give you that coverage and to show up for those results on Amazon over time.
So George Lawrence tells the story, and I'm going to tell it less cool than he does and a lot faster, but he had someone who came up and they were like, I bought your merchant words. He was getting ready to be yelled at. And, she said that she had these anklets that, she couldn't move them. She bought them. She thought they would sell. They weren't selling. So she put it in merchant words. And then when she merchant words, when you enter a word, it will give you a whole bunch of other words. And so it came up like hot wife, anklet, swinger, and so she was so shocked, but then she didn't want to put that on her listing because, there are going to be little teenagers that are going to come look at this anklet too. We don't want to scare them off with hot wife as a keyword, right?
Exactly.
So she put those on the back end. So the back end is when you go, like, how when you go to manually, like before, like if you're not using Inventory Lab, if you go into Seller Central and add a product, there's a page for keywords. And then everybody wants to know about platinum keywords. If you could use platinum keywords, trust me, you would know. So if you don't know what they're for, don't even bother asking, right? But there's 5 little lines, and you can put up to 250 bytes in those. And then I think he's asking, when we're running the manual campaign, do we put those same keywords kind of in the search term fields? And so to kind of answer that, we kind of almost need to talk about keywords versus search terms, but I think that's a whole other webinar.
Yeah.
So we'll if you're in the academy and if you're really struggling with keywords and search terms, let me know. I'll make a separate video on that so you don't have to wait weeks to get that. But you're going to, so the long answer is yes, you're going to use a lot of those words in your manual campaign. But we want to make sure that they're structured correctly. Do you want to give maybe a 3-minute spiel on that?
I can go ahead and explain just like what the keyword and the search term as well, because that kind of goes back into that. So a keyword is what you are targeting on Amazon. This is actually what you are typing in, and you're saying, hey, I want my sedan. I think that people that are searching 4-door sedan will want to purchase my item. So in a manual campaign, you will say, I want to bid $3 on 4-door sedan. And whenever you see this in the manual campaign, you can actually click on it, and you can see all the search terms that were related back to that keyword. So there's like a broad match keyword. That's a certain type of match type for a keyword. And a broad match keyword for, let's say, apple slicer. Somebody could search apple core slicer, and that will relate back to the keyword. So a search term is actually what someone searched. A keyword is a more broad way to target that specific type of terminology. And so there's 2 different types of things. You don't want to get those confused because the search term is more exact. It's actually what they searched. You can see exactly what converted, exactly what led to the click, but that would correlate back to a certain keyword that you were bidding on. And that's the biggest difference there. You want to keep those together. In a future video, we'll show how you can dive in. You can go from campaign to keyword and the search term. You can see exactly what's doing well and what's not doing well. And in theory, you do want to have those in your manual campaign, the terms that you put on the back end of your listing. You do want to have those in your manual campaign, but you want to do some research first. Make sure that you actually are showing up for those and you're getting that traffic and it is converting. You don't really want to bid on a keyword that you're just not converting for, that's just not doing well for you, because even if you're spending hundreds of dollars on a keyword and it's just not doing well for you, then why are you spending so much money on it? So that's kind of, in theory, yes. The short answer is yes, you do want to go after those, but you want to do some research to make sure that you actually are going to get some type of results from those terms that you're putting in there.
And so when we're looking at, if you think about it, so like if you were looking, okay, so I was buying, so I was trying to buy like travel cord organizer because mine just bit the dust, right? And so, their keywords might be travel cord, travel, it might be cord, it might be organizer. Those are all going to be keywords for them. But travel cord organizer Apple phone. Like if I typed it, that's so it's whatever the random thing that the customer typed in, so it would be like, so it would be what the customer actually typed in is the search term. Blech. Yeah. So if you have more questions, let's type them in. We'll stay and answer as many questions as you want. Today was just the basics because we want to make sure you have an idea of the pieces. So it was understanding what sponsored products are and why we feel that they're so important. And then some of the biggest things. And again, we were talking about those that really, he talked about systems, process, and metrics. It's when it comes down to making your sponsored ad campaigns, is understanding the difference between automatic and manual. It's making sure that you understand that you're going to have a system to pull those words that are not working out for you. And that campaign structure, if you only get one thing from tonight, really we want to make sure that you're clear that the way that you set up your campaigns is important. We have some more that we're going to give you on that. I think that's a little bit much to kind of go into today. But when you start your automatic campaigns, you want to make sure that you have enough granularity where you can look and you can make sure that, you're not doing well on some areas and poorly on others. So if you look at your sponsored products campaigns and you see hats, blue, scarf, then we want to really get much more specific, almost to an ASIN level of exactly what's going on here.
Yeah, and that's something that I'm really looking forward to covering because people make fun of me because I say all the time, you got to dive into your campaigns, but it really is, you have to be able to get really, really specific with your campaigns. You have to be able to spend money on the keywords that are doing well for you, and that requires some digging sometimes. Like, with the help of Ignite, it makes that process a lot easier. Ignite will do some of that digging for you, and I'm really excited to kind of show that and kind of break it down to show it's not as scary as people say it is. Sponsored product ads were like part of the Wild Wild West, but now, once there's a better understanding of it and there's more education behind it, it's actually really fun. It's really, really cool because you start to look for advertisements yourself, you start to notice the advertisements more, and you get a better understanding about why it's so important because you start seeing that it's doing well for you and it's driving that traffic that you really want.
And so, if you're in the Unstoppable Amazon Academy, PPC Ed here from Seller Labs is going to be coming back for additional webinars where we're going to go into, today we were talking really about the what. Here's what you need to know. You need to know about campaign structure, automatic, manual, where they are. You need to understand ACOS. We're telling you basically the what's. We're going to go into the how. How do you set it up? And specifically, how do you set it up in Ignite? Because we know, in my experience, I find that people get so overwhelmed with all of the things that go into sponsored products. They get, they spend 3 or 4 hours, they get excited, they get into it, they get overwhelmed, and they shut down. So we want to give you as much step-by-step as we can. So, that's what the Academy is all about. So let's talk real quick about what we're going to, so the next webinar is going to be March 1st, and we're going to talk about automatic campaigns. And so how do you structure those campaigns? Keep those questions coming. We're going to answer them right after we go over this too. And then the next one after that is, whoops, I guess my thing just kind of went crazy there. So we're going to be talking about the manual targeting. And this is the one that you really need to get on your calendar. Make sure you get the replay. Automatic, you can kind of fluff your way through. Manual, you cannot fluff your way through. You have to really have a strategy in order to make that work. There are some really, really niche products that you can run an automatic campaign and be fine. But for most products that you're really trying to jumpstart, you are going to need this campaign. If you're a private label seller, you will need this manual targeting. And then do you want to talk about the 29th, what we're going to talk about?
Yes, this is one of the best ones because this is actually going to be, okay, you got the auto targeting set up, you got the manual set up. Now I'm actually going to go through this and actually tell you what to do after they're set up and after they've been running and how to really dig into that data, pull out those successful terms and make them keywords. They're going to be talking about that again. You'll actually see examples of keywords as to search terms and how to really optimize your campaigns to keep them running successfully. While possibly dialing back your auto-targeting campaigns and ramping up your manual campaigns, and also talking about moving keywords from one match type to another, possibly two. So this is going to be like the really big part that I'm really looking forward to because it's going to be the part that you're going to take and really run with. And I love doing this. So this is also like where I really nerd out some too, and you get to see that side of me.
And because that assessment and maintenance is really how you make sure that you're not overspending, or
Mhm.
that because sometimes people say, oh, I was doing sponsored ads, it was working great, and then all of a sudden it stopped working, and then they blame sponsored products. And what really happened is they had a keyword where maybe there wasn't a lot of competition,
Mhm.
and somebody posted about it on YouTube, and now
Then
there's
all of a
five
sudden,
other people, right? There's a bunch of different products, and so now there's a lot more competition for that bid, and so
Mhm.
it's no longer profitable. So sponsored products is not a set it and forget it, which is again why we
Mhm.
don't do it on products that we can't replenish, because it's just not a good investment of your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially around the holiday too, or like if you have like a very niche product that like does better around certain times of the year, you can't just set it and forget it because all of a sudden you're going to have a lot more competition coming in. You're going to have people trying to launch similar items at the same time, and especially around the holidays, it gets crazy because everybody's like, "Oh, I should be running sponsored product campaigns too." So, learning how to really assess how it's doing and getting that long term maintenance and understanding that, getting it down to the science is really helpful in the long run.
And if you're doing something like bundles, this is going to be the same thing. You want to make sure you give
Mhm.
yourself a nice runway before a seasonal bundle, because you want to be able to see what's working, and be able to adjust your strategy. Otherwise, you're really going to be buying on speculation, which is one of the reasons why we pull back from a lot of seasonal bundles. Now, we're going to have a special promotion. You guys can go here and check it out. But I think we're going
Mhm.
to go ahead and do you want to just really briefly say what it is? And then we're going to
Yeah.
go back to questions.
Yeah, so we'll talk about this in other webinars too. If you go to sellabs.com/NestPro, and you use the promo code right here, that's BFTNRJSLP. You actually get 30 days, 30-day access to Seller Labs Pro. This is something that we actually partnered up with on Ruffin. Seller Labs Pro is actually offering 4 of our tools, one of them being Ignite, but then also Scope, which is a keyword research tool, then Feedback Genius, which allows you to follow up with your people that purchase your product to ask them for reviews or ask them to leave, buyer feedback, seller feedback. And there's also Quantify, which actually allows you to manage your inventory and get an idea about like when you're running out of stock and how you're actually doing as a profit from a profit standpoint. So
So
we'll
for
talk
those,
about that more in
yeah.
the other webinars too.
Yeah, so it's a suite of tools, and I don't promote a lot of software, but I do think that this software is worth it, just because even if you didn't use Ignite all the way, with Feedback Genius and Scope, even if you just use those tools, I think that it's something that we like.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and answer some questions here. How much money would you start with on the ads, including the default bid?
Ooh, this is one of those that there's no correct answer. It really depends on the type of product that you're offering. The default bids are actually determined by like competition. The more competitive a product is, or like a certain category is, the higher those bids will be. You can actually see inside of Amazon and also on Ignite, you can see suggested bids. This is usually a good place to start. Whenever I'm starting off, I start off on the higher end of that suggested bid, so I can have some traffic, right off the bat. But it really depends. Like on some areas, default bids can be like $4 a click, whereas some of them they're like 60 cents because it's not that competitive. So if you're looking at something that is a wanted product but it's not that competitive, it would be on the lower end of that default bid. So there's no hey, start off with $2. There's no answer like that, but you can use some of those suggested bids in Amazon and on Ignite to get you started on the right foot.
And let's see here. In the coming webinar, will you be able to cover details on what keywords and search terms to put where, because that is confusing. So so because I think that that's one of the things that Ignite really does, is it kind of helps you kind of streamline the process, because it can be, there's a lot of different places where you can kind of put things. And so it will kind of streamline that.
Yeah.
And we're going to get in a little bit further into identifying which keywords are the keywords that you do want to focus on. One of the coolest parts about sponsored products, the way that it gives you that ongoing ability is that, once you have a keyword, let's say it's performing really well for you, if maybe you don't have that and maybe you're not ranking for that organically, but you're still ranking for it, you're able to run ads for it because it's a relevant word, but it's not something you're indexed for. If you look at those words and then make sure that you have those in the title, you have in the bullets, or in the keywords, not all three, but one of them, then you start to generate more organic, because now you've created a new door that we know buyers are going to come through. So it helps you to identify which keywords are important. Now, if you're working with as a wholesaler, with wholesale vendors, one of the things that you can offer them as a value prop is that if you're running sponsored products, not only are you going to move more products than everybody else, but you're also going to be able to send them that search term report. What I do is I send them the search term report and I tell them these are the words that are converting best for us on Amazon. Amazon is a platform of buyers only. So if you integrate these words into your organic website SEO, then you should increase your conversion. And that is super sexy to those manufacturers, because that's data that they can't get anywhere else. So you become, and honestly, even if that became a really big thing and everybody was doing it, there's so few people that will actually learn how to do sponsored ads correctly that you're the likelihood of you being up against another Amazon seller that's able to provide that is really small. So between that and then the other things that we're teaching you in the academy about making sure that the text is different on their website versus on Amazon, all those little SEO tips that you can give them, you're going to look like a more well-rounded e-commerce seller, and that's going to make you a partner, not just a person who purchases.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's something too, like we're going to kind of really go into is, Ignite will offer suggestions aimed to help you lower bids, change match types, move terms from auto targeting to manual. So a lot of that can be confusing if you don't really know, but as Ignite is making those suggestions, you'll also learn off of those suggestions. That's what I actually suggest, looking at the suggestions, I'm going to say it like that. But we suggest actually looking into what Ignite is telling you to do so you get a better understanding about what it's doing and why it wants you to do that. So really awesome stuff. Really can't wait to really touch on that more.
If you have any more questions, I think we've answered most of them. So if you have another one, you're waiting for somebody else to ask it for you, it's not going to happen. So you better ask it. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to answer it for you. So when it comes down to sponsored products, again, we're starting with an automatic campaign. Mm-hmm. We're using that to verify make sure that the keywords that we think are performing well. We take our automatic campaign, and with those systems, processes, and metrics, we're going to pull out the words that are not performing and pour gasoline on the ones that are. We're using this to jumpstart the SEO. The Amazon SEO to make this listing attractive enough to Amazon search engine where it wants to show other people this product. And so we're going to do all of those things. It's going to help drive reviews. It's going to drive revenue. And it's going to make you more influential with not only the retail stores that you're buying from, but also with the wholesale companies. Mm-hmm. And then this is, it's this thing we just kind of, it's funny because, we when you live and breathe it, you miss the easy questions.
Right.
Phyllis wanted to know, how do you find the results of your campaigns?
So, you can spend hours and hours on end going through reports in Amazon to find out what's doing well. And when I say what's doing well, it's those keywords that you're spending money on, but not a lot of money. And you're actually getting a good return on that. So these are actually the keywords that you're not having to spend too much on, and each time someone clicks on it and they're converting for you. They have a lower A cost, or in your target A cost range. And this is actually something that you can see inside of Ignite really easily. You can see at a campaign level what your overall A cost is, and you can see down through the campaign how each keyword is doing as well. And then on top of that, how the search terms are doing. So there's these reports too inside of Ignite. There's actually graphs you can view to see how your spend has changed over time, how your A cost has fluctuated over time. And it really actually can even show you that in comparison to your overall sales for your Amazon account. So it's really easy to see inside of Ignite with the graphs. You don't have to actually download the data from Amazon, export it to Excel, make your graph, and then look at it. It's always going to be right there in front of you inside of Ignite. That's actually half of the reason why I use Ignite all the time, because when I'm building out these reports for my clients to show how their account's doing, the data's right there. I don't have to download it and export it and sort it and do all this other stuff. I can do it right inside of Ignite, clicking just a couple buttons. And I'm looking for those winning keywords and those winning campaigns, and I'm not spending a lot on, but I'm getting a good return out of it with those awesome conversions coming through.
And if you are doing it manually, then you're going to look for the search term report, and
Mm-hmm.
you're also going to look for the campaign report. And if you type those in that help box on the side, it
Mm-hmm.
will give you directions on how to get to those. If you don't, if you need us to make a video showing you how to get to those, post it in the Academy, and I will make a video for you for that as well. Because I know it's easy for me to say just click, 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 and then sometimes
Yeah.
things are harder. And then Kim said, Kim wanted to know if there was a way to have us evaluate her current sponsored ads. Since you are in our group coaching program, yes. So just send it to Nate, and he'll take a look at it, and he'll tell you things to optimize or things not to optimize. And I think that Seller Labs has a similar program
Mm-hmm.
where you can get help with them. So if you're a momentum student with us, or if you're what kind of client do they call it? If you're like if you what kind of client do they have to be to get PPC ads eyes on their account?
I mean, so if you sign up for Ignite, you can always get like a 30-minute consultation for free. That's just us just looking at it. But like if you actually want us to step in and take over, that is like a separate service. So we have something called IAS, it's Ignite Automated Services. I'm actually the main account manager for that, where we actually manage your accounts for you. But like if you sign up for Ignite, or if you sign up for Seller Labs Pro, like with the deal we're talking about, you can actually call in, or you can schedule an appointment with somebody on the customer support team to have a 30-minute time for them just to look at your campaigns inside of Ignite and say, hey, here's what's working, here's what's not working, you should do this, you should adjust this. Also, email in and you can ask for me, and I can definitely make some time out of my day to help you out for sure.
And her email, we should probably just say her email address for the, can't
Yeah, so
remember.
the email, you can just, if you just email support@sellerlabs.com, that'll go to our support team, and you can just say, hey, I want to talk to Edward, or I want to have Edward or somebody on his team kind of just look at my account to see what's working, what's not working. And if I'm not available, I can get one of my handy dandy team members to help you out as well, because I'm a wanted man. But I always love helping people out with sponsored product ads.
And remember, we're not going to abuse that, because this is why we can't have nice things, right? If you guys abuse it, then they'll stop offering it, because our labs has to make money. So, make sure we don't break it for everybody else. Let's see. So that was the answer to that. I think that is all the questions. So we'll get back here again on March 1st, going through all of those pieces. So if you have questions in the meantime, feel free to post them in the Academy. Thanks so much for coming on, and we'll talk real soon.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thanks.
much.
Bye.
Bye.